This is CBC Vancouver News.
Calls to end the violence in Israel and Gaza.
Our Jewish brothers and sisters, they're feeling rage. They're feeling hate.
I think the number one word to describe today is fear.
As the civilian death toll continues to rise. Surrey goes to court fighting to keep the RCMP.
They're very concerned about the cost to Surrey taxpayers if this transition were to continue.
While BC's public safety minister vows the transition to a city force will happen. And 50 years later,
I remember my cousin who went missing.
BC's Chilean community remembers the military coup that forced them to flee. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Michelle Ghoussoub. Israel's deadline for people in Gaza to evacuate south has now come and gone. So far, Israel does not appear to have started the ground invasion they said was coming. Still, the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza is worsening by the hour. And in this country, members of BC's Jewish community say they are fearful after a former Hamas leader called for worldwide protests today. Joel Ballard reports on the community leaders here urging calm.
At the Congregation Beth Israel Synagogue, a sense of unease.
The number one word to describe today is fear.
Rabbi Infeld says he has heard from congregants who are afraid to come to the synagogue, his time spent consoling and comforting members.
The very point of a terrorist is not just to kill and to maim, but the very point of a terrorist is to bring terror and to terrify, and we cannot give in to terrorism.
Across town at the Al Jamia Mosque, a prayer for peace was held to spread a message of love.
Our Jewish brothers and sisters, they're feeling rage. They're feeling hate. They're feeling pain. We understand it. We as Muslims, we feel rage. We feel pain. We feel hate. And those emotions are there, but they won't get you anywhere.
In Israel, the military warned Palestinians to flee parts of Gaza as infantry and tanks carried out raids. Gaza authorities say more than 1,800 people have been killed in the conflict, while Israel's military says more than 1,300 people have been killed in their country. Back in Vancouver, the call for peace rings out amid the carnage.
What happened in Israel to the Israeli people is horrible. There is no excuse for it. I categorically condemn it. But you cannot put collective punishment on a people, and that's what's happening.
Vancouver's mayor urging understanding.
Make no mistake about it, Vancouver is a place of peace, love, and inclusion.
Some people calling on him to do more.
Are you going to condemn Israel, though?
We're not, look.
It's been 75 years, please.
Yeah. So, look, I'm not going to get into that.
Our time is limited, and our prayers are going to start.
Back at the synagogue, Rabbi Infeld says emotions are complicated. Fear layered on top of mourning for those who have been killed.
That's true grief. And with that type of grief, there's nothing that can be said.
Vancouver police, meanwhile, are making themselves more visible at places of worship and community centers.
So right now, there's nothing that leads us to believe that there's any threats here in Vancouver. But having said that, we're taking extra precautions.
One piece of comfort for people in fear. Joel Ballard, CBC News, Vancouver.
Earlier today in Vancouver, a pro-Palestinian rally was held near the commercial Broadway SkyTrain station. Hundreds of people gathered, surrounded by a heavy police presence. Protesters there said they were concerned about the mounting civilian death toll in Gaza and called for a ceasefire.
Here to let the people, let the world know that it's a very bad situation over there. Please help the people and please stop the war and please find a peaceful solution for this issue to be solved forever.
In Gaza, there is now no electricity, and food, fuel, and medical supplies are in short supply. While talks about opening a humanitarian corridor into Egypt are ongoing, thousands of Palestinian workers from Gaza who normally work in Israel have no idea when they will return home. As Chris Brown reports, many have gathered in cities like Ramallah in the occupied West Bank.
We're in Ramallah on the occupied West Bank, and this is a recreation center, but the people who are here, they're certainly not here for recreation. When the Hamas gunmen stormed into southern Israel and committed their massacres, there were at the time thousands of Gazan workers who were legally in Israel. Most of them were working, but some people were visiting, and there were some people even in Israeli hospitals. And now all of these people are trapped, and this is where hundreds of them literally have been put. This is a recreation center, and as you can see, people are using a basketball apparatus to dry their clothes. They're sleeping on outdoor mattresses. They're trying to exist off donations that people from the West Bank have given them. But it really is a very sorry scene, because a lot of these men, it's all men who are here, they're extremely worried about what they're seeing on television involving their families. We talked to one man who has 9 children. He's barely been able to reach his wife. He says he broke into tears because he's so concerned that they're going to be killed by this relentless bombing campaign. However, at the same time, if you ask them how they feel about what Hamas did, that is not where they direct their anger. They instead bring up the fact that these people, these young men, were living under occupation, and one man described it as a fireball that was released into Israel. But their hope here, their futures here are very dim. The borders are obviously closed. Nothing is coming in or out of Gaza. And so for everyone here, they have no idea when they're going to get home. This is a place without a future. Chris Brown, CBC News in Ramallah.
The grinding, expensive saga over policing in Surrey is not over yet. The city says it is now going to court to try to stop the transition to a municipal force, despite being ordered to make it happen this summer. Yasmin Gandam joins us now with more. Yasmin, what is happening now?
Well, Michelle, the city of Surrey has now hired lawyer and former RCMP Deputy Commissioner Peter German to help with its legal battle against the move to a city police force. He's filed a petition for a judicial review in BC Supreme Court.
They're very concerned about the cost to Surrey taxpayers if this transition were to continue. And it's also very clear that the Surrey Police Board has been unable to hire enough frontline officers to assume police force of jurisdiction.
Surrey Mayor Brenda Locke has argued the switch to a city police force would cause an unacceptable tax increase in difficult economic times. She campaigned on a promise to keep the RCMP in Surrey. Peter German argues these legal costs are nothing next to taxpayers having to pay for 2 police forces. Michelle?
Yasmin, this move does have some opponents on city council.
Yes, at least 4 city councillors who are not with Mayor Locke's party are frustrated by the petition. They say it is a risk to public safety and will cost taxpayers even more. Councillor Linda Annis says this latest move is more about politics than public safety.
The public just wants it done. They just want to move forward. It's been the single focus of council now for the past 5 years, at the expense of many other things, including getting a lot of housing built, improving our roads, transit. You know, we have over 400 portables here, and people want us to be focusing on those issues and would love to see this police transition discussion brought to a conclusion.
Public Safety Minister Mike Farnworth is also slamming the petition. In July, the province ordered the city of Surrey to continue the transition to the Surrey Police Service.
My first thoughts are, I find it hard to understand why the city of Surrey would want to waste taxpayers' dollars on fighting a decision that's already been made and is going to be implemented.
Farnworth also says he plans to introduce legislation on Monday to force Surrey to speed up the transition to a city police force. Farnworth says so far the city has not accepted $150 million from the provincial government to help with the process. Michelle?
Our Yasmin Gandam reporting tonight. Thank you, Yasmin. Well, 6 current and former female police officers have filed a proposed class action lawsuit against BC's municipal police services, alleging gender-based discrimination and harassment.
We need something to be done. We need protection in the workplace. So yeah, the stuff that will come out in this lawsuit, this is the collective experience of women in policing. Now, I'm not saying every woman experiences this, but I'm saying that like our stories are not unique.
The 25-page lawsuit names 13 city forces, including Vancouver and Victoria police departments, along with the Office of the Police Complaint Commissioner, the Attorney General, and the Minister of Public Safety and Solicitor General. The women say their complaints were not handled properly in the workplace. They claim they were ostracized and belittled, and their career advancement became limited.
It affected all of us in our ability to do our jobs, in our ability to function in everyday life. We wore it, we carried it home. And we still wear it. We'll wear it forever.
None of the allegations have yet been proven in court. In order for the lawsuit to move forward, a judge would have to certify the class action. The women say if the lawsuit doesn't go ahead, they will consider filing a complaint with the BC Human Rights Tribunal. Well, 50 years have passed since a military coup in Chile led to widespread violence. It forced many families to flee and thousands resettled in Canada. Members of BC's Chilean community are marking that anniversary. Our John Hernandez listened to their stories of survival.
I know, it's emotional.
A small passport photo of her and her sister takes Giselle del Carmen Vivanco Oliva back 50 years. Some good memories back home in Chile.
I had lots of family around, lots of birthday parties.
But also tragic ones.
I remember my cousin who went missing. I remember the last time I saw him walking out the door because he was hiding. I knew they were like, something was not right.
Tragedies far too common after September 11th, 1973, when the Chilean government was overthrown by the military, the elected president replaced by dictator Augusto Pinochet, spurring a campaign of violence against those with leftist associations.
But one thing that is very prominent in my memory is the military coming into the house when my sister Maritza, my sister Yvette, we were sleeping, and them coming upstairs with their face all painted black, you know, looking for weapons and arms. And I remember them beating up my mom, grabbing us and just like throwing us from the bed.
Vivanco Oliva's family was among 7,000 Chileans that fled to Canada.
We did experience racism at that time. You're talking the 1970s. We got sent to Alberta.
Now she's a mom living in Burnaby and working to support at-risk women. She admits the weight of an uprooted past can still be heavy.
I feel that my daughter can call Canada home because she's born here. But myself, I still feel like I kind of live in limbo.
We had so many hangout areas here, you know, as little bunch of kids.
For Angelo Maroney, landing in Canada was an adventure. His family settled in this downtown East Side housing complex.
I didn't know how long we were going to stay here, and I trusted my mom and my father fully, so I basically enjoyed it. I enjoyed the discovering of new cultures, discovering new place, new languages.
But he says his parents had a harder transition. His father was targeted and imprisoned before coming to Canada.
The torture scarred him, of course, and his medication was alcohol.
Maroney now works as an addictions counselor in the same neighborhood where he grew up.
I feel blessed and grateful that I'm supporting and working here because it feels like home. And I understand some of the struggles that people here in the downtown East Side, they experience.
My brother, and this is me.
69-year-old Gloria Diaz has raised children and grandchildren since coming to Canada.
I'm happy that I ended up here. That it was difficult, yes, it was difficult because by comparison, my brothers and sisters were assimilated faster than me. I was with my mind in the old country and physically here until one day I said, okay, I have to stop this.
She says she's built a community here, but there's still pain.
It's a lot of mending to do. The justice have come slowly but steady.
And there are still people needing to speak up and speak out and remind us.
It's a time which it's our responsibility for the children of the exile to have a voice, because I don't think we've ever had a voice, right?
50 years passed, thousands dead, and 1,300 still missing, with countless more stories waiting to be heard. John Hernandez, CBC News, Vancouver.
Federal Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre is in Vancouver today, where he held 2 separate rallies for Conservative supporters. He attacked the Trudeau government's fiscal policy and promised to introduce a new dollar-to-dollar law if elected.
By capping spending with a new dollar-for-dollar law, it'll require that my government finds $1 of savings for every new dollar of spending.
Poilievre also repeated his stance to recriminalize drugs and his promise to introduce stricter bail reform laws.
They see a lot of negative things, but there's also a lot of positive things that come out of this community.
The annual Megaphone magazine calendar shines a light on those living on the downtown east side. We bring you their stories and their images next. Thanks for watching our commercial-free live stream. Well, food banks and PEI say they are feeding more people than ever before. Some have seen double-digit increases in demand. And as Chilean Desjardins reports, officials say they don't expect it to slow down anytime soon.
This was filled on Thursday.
Aside from Christmas, last Thursday was the busiest day ever at Southern Kings and Queens Food Bank in Montague. 76 families showed up here. They all needed food.
We've had at least 2 to 3 new clients, every week, sometimes 6 a week. So we're getting up there now too.
It's a similar story across the province. Demand at Southern Kings and Queens Food Bank is up 40%. The upper room in Charlottetown says it has 27% more clients. And in Crapo, the South Shore Food Bank is seeing a 30% jump.
For years and years and years, we've had food banks institutionalized in this country. So while they're important for people who are desperate, governments should never think that that is going to somehow mitigate the problem to the point that they don't need to make major policy changes.
The co-founder of the food bank here in Crapo says she's never seen numbers like this before. They recently had to turn 12 people away, sending them to other food banks because of demand.
It kind of made me feel sick, and I cried a little. It is getting worse, slowly and steadily getting worse. And now with winter coming and the cost of heating your home, it's just going to escalate.
The upper room in Charlottetown is expecting a busy few months too. The holiday season is getting closer. When money is tight, a family's food budget often takes a hit.
Definitely it's getting worse. In August, we had record numbers, and August is usually a slower month for us. And September, unfortunately, kind of blew August out of the water. So we're really preparing for a busy winter.
Back in Montague, Norma Dingwell is getting ready for the next rush of people. She says all these potatoes could be gone by tomorrow. And while donations have slowed down a bit, everyone is thankful to those stepping up to help. Chilean Desjardins, CBC News, Montague.
Welcome back. The annual Hope in Shadows calendar was unveiled yesterday by Megaphone magazine. It's a fundraiser in the downtown east side that points the camera at that community. We spoke to those featured about its importance.
We want to show the beauty and the wonderful moments in the downtown east side. The idea of it is to combat the stigma and stereotypes that people often associate with the downtown east side. The negativity, it's scary, it's all of these things that we're used to seeing on the news every day. These beautiful moments, these interactions on the street, or recipes that they do, or plants that they've bought, they have regular lives, and we wanted to show that.
It's nice, you know. My mom's gonna get the calendar. It's gonna be a nice surprise.
It's a picture of me and my son. He loves like the old school train, so we were just like went on the train, and it took me like about 5 or 6 takes to get this picture. I just see my son, and I see so much love in like the next generation, and you know his future, and you know a brighter life.
Casey Meets Jimmy by Lynn Sawatsky.
It means a lot because it just like this calendar highlights like the people of this community. You know, Vancouver is in Vancouver without the downtown east side. We're like, you know, they see a lot of like negative things, but there's also a lot of positive things that come out of this community. Highlights like children and highlights like families that live in this community, play in this community, work in this community. I believe in people down here, and like sometimes they don't see it, but I believe in everybody in the downtown east side. You know, we're good people, and we have a lot of love and a lot of heart down here. And I think people don't see that a lot, but we do. We have a lot of love for each other.
Here's a live shot of downtown Vancouver towards Burrard Inlet. Darius will have your full forecast next.
More pride comes from knowing it's the favorite choice when Canada gets together over a beer.
Until now, this type of commercial could only be seen and heard on TV and radio stations in other parts of Canada and in the United States. Newspapers and magazines could carry wine and beer ads, but not local radio and TV. Well, that's all changed today under new legislation which was, in part, brought about by the BC Association of Broadcasters.
We're certainly pleased as an industry that this discrimination between newspapers and print media has been eliminated, and the fact that millions of dollars have been going across the border and being beamed back here on television and radio is now being spent in British Columbia.
Here's to all the people who make the music we love.
The stations are limited to 2 minutes of beer and wine commercials per hour. And until the new regulations have been clearly spelled out, Davis says that the broadcasters will be responsible for making sure that the commercials are run at appropriate times and obey the rules of good taste. The beer and wine commercials will come as something of a gift to those broadcasters who have been pinched by falling revenues.
Whether it's a boom, I would think in the major markets such as Vancouver, no. In upcountry markets where you have single station situations, I would say there would be definitely a boom to those particular markets.
It's expected that the breweries and the wineries will pump about $5 million into the local market this year, and part of that will benefit local companies that produce the commercials.
It so happens that Vancouver is one of the best centers literally in North America for a number of the technical requirements that are needed to produce good creative. And we will be using Vancouver studios, and we have used them.
The broadcasters will be required to kick back 15% of their beer and wine advertising profits for educational commercials warning about the dangers of alcohol abuse in this, Canada's thirstiest province. Terry Dolan, CBC News, Vancouver.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
The Chutzpah Festival returns November 2nd to 23rd with an exciting lineup of performances, including dance, music, theater, and more. For tickets, visit chutzpahfestival.com. And join CBC Vancouver's Leanne Young at the Alumni UBC Achievement Awards November 14th. The event honors members of the UBC community through their endeavors and commitment to help shape a better world.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
It's time to bring in weather specialist Darius Mahdavi for the forecast. Little bit of cloud cover coming in. Is that going to impact whether we see the eclipse?
Unfortunately, it looks like it might. Now, it's not the end of the world if we do have some cloud because of just how much of the sun is going to be blocked out. You might even be able to notice the change in light through the cloud. But tomorrow morning, it does look like as the moon covers the sun, there'll be quite a bit of cloud coverage across BC. So just keep in mind, BC, best place in Canada to see the eclipse if you can actually see it through the cloud. So if we zoom in here, you can see most of BC is going to see up to 80%, 60 to 80% of the sun covered. So it should be a pretty spectacular view for those who are able to see it. And so over the time from around 7:30 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. for most of southern BC, that's when we could be able to expect to see the eclipse if the cloud cooperates. So it has actually, the forecast has cleared up a little bit, especially for the South Island, but it's not looking great here on the lower mainland. We could still see some breaks in the cloud. We might just get a glimpse of it. Just make sure you're facing east or southeast for the best chance to do that. If we zoom out a little bit more, you can see anywhere that's green here, you got a great view. Yellow means 50-50 cloud cover, and red is you're in trouble for the most part. But we could still see some breaks, and if we zoom out to all of BC, really northern BC has the best chance, but everywhere that's further east and would have a worse view of the eclipse are getting a little bit luckier with the weather. So just fingers crossed and hope for the best. That cloud also coming with quite a bit of rain that already started. We saw earlier today a pretty big system start to pass over the island, so quite a bit of rainfall moving in already. Expect that to continue as several more systems roll through the province. Most of it is going to be confined to the coast, so we're going to take a look at that first, and then I'll show you sort of what we can expect in the interior, which is really not much. But rain already happening by early tomorrow morning. We're going to see a lot of that rain make its way to the east coast of the island, even despite the rain shadow making its way to the lower mainland as well. We clear up for the most part each day in the weekend. It's really overnight that we're going to see most of the rain. You can see those systems pretty rapidly pass through. We're going to get the heaviest rainfall probably Sunday night into Monday, at least here on the lower mainland, starting as early as Sunday evening. So during the day, you should have a pretty dry chance to get outside, so it shouldn't be too bad for the weekend, not too bad of a forecast. Here you can see that it's really the interior was just expecting a little bit of rain, if anything, and it's a small chance of these scattered showers that we're really expecting. Really, most of the rainfall is coming for the coasts, and here it's just a small chance, if anything, that you get really much of anything throughout the southern interior. Tomorrow, expect that rain to come through the south. Again, just a small chance here, but really cloud building through the province as that high pressure starts to move out of BC. And here in Vancouver, really, it's a pretty rainy forecast ahead. Lots of cloud tomorrow, clearing up a little bit on Sunday, but still lots of rain. And then all through next week, expect plenty of showers still to come.
All right, we will keep our fingers crossed for some clearing tomorrow.
Definitely.
Thanks. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. For news anytime, including the latest in the Middle East, visit cbc.ca/BC. Your next local newscast is on Radio 1 tomorrow morning at 6:30. Good night.